Greetings, fellow human beings. I hope that you are doing great. Lately, I had the opportunity to try the 20 to 35mm f2.8L lens from Canon, thanks to my friend Soro, who lended it to me. To try out this wide-angle lens, we decided to go shoot at Tsuruhashi covered market next to Koreatown. Shooting with this wide-angle lens made perfect sense in the narrow alleys of this place. The 20 to 35mm f2.8L series was released in 1989, which makes it somewhat of a vintage lens. It was made in Japan, so the build quality is au rendezvous. It is very capable in low light due to its 2.8 aperture all the way through. The L series offers great sharpness, which is the case with the 20 to 35mm. Obviously, the autofocus is slower than modern lenses, but is still fast enough in my point of view. It is quite chunky and a little heavy for my liking, but it's all metal, and as I said earlier, the build quality is irreproachable even for an old lens. As it is an EF mount, I had to use my EF to RF adapter to pair it with the Canon R8. I didn't shoot any videos with it since I was focused on shooting stills and making sure not to damage it since it's not mine. So I cannot tell you about its videography capability. As for the photography side, let me show you the image I took. So this is the very first photo of the session, and it was actually suggested by Soro. Thank you, my friend. And the idea here is to shoot the altar on the right side and the people passing by in the alley on the left side. Since the 20mm is wide enough, even though I was just 1 meter away from the altar, I could still get the whole scene. And this kind of picture is what I call documentary photography. For this one here, I kneel down to emphasize the distortion you get out of the 20mm focal length. The main point of attraction is the ceiling with all those ball lights going all the way down, and I find interesting the V-shapes that the distortion creates. For this photo here, I was pretty close to the frog rackets, but I wanted to incorporate a human subject in the composition. So the main subjects are the racket in the foreground, but you have a secondary subject in the back, and that secondary subject is framed by all the colorful toys hanging around her. Same shop, this time on the right side. The lady was unpacking some merchandise, and again the idea is that she is framed by all the colorful toys around her. One bonus point I like about this composition are the two soccer balls we can see as a foreground element. They add some popping colors to the composition. Here again, another documentary photograph. The lady on the bicycle was much closer to me, but because of the wide-angle distortion effect, she seems to be much further. So this is something to keep in mind when you shoot with a wide-angle lens. Your subject might get lost in the composition. This is a little bit the case here, but as I say, since it's a documentary photography, the human element is just one element of the overall composition. So we have the big whiteboard with the markings at the top, we have a little bit of the toy shop on the right side, and we have the alley with the people going down in the center of the picture. Here I was actually leaning toward the lady because I didn't want my main subject to be lost in the frame. The 20mm managed to get most of her shop into the frame. And the bonus point for me in this shot is the plastic sheet that is hanging between me and her and the reflection of the neon lights on it. Tsuruhashi covered market consists of small shops stacked next to each other in narrow alleys. So necessarily, in the quiet alleys, the main subjects will be the people in the shops. And this is the case with this next photo. So here I show how narrow and cramped the little shops are. I like the grittiness and the weathering on the different surfaces, like on the doors of the cold room. And I like the old register as a foreground element. So this bunch of people were on their way to a ceremony. You have the ladies wearing ceremonial attires, while the guys are wearing suits. I was kneeling down just a meter away from the main subject in the front, yet with the 20mm focal length we can see his entire body, and actually this one is elongated by the distortion effect, which I found interesting. I like that he is looking at us, and I find funny that he's holding the umbrella even under the ceiling. On this shot here, I play with perspectives and colors. So you have guidelines on the left side, and you have yellowish color on this part and bluish at the end of the picture. and what I like the best about it is the spilling blue color on the shutter over there. So again, this alley is pretty narrow, and at 50mm or even 35, I would not have been able to take that shot. Here is one of my favorite pictures of the session. You have guidelines leading toward the end of the picture. You have the blue sheets and its spilling blue colors on both sides, creating a colorful background for the silhouette of the subject, in that case Tsuru, to stand out. And the things I like the most about this picture is, of course, the spilling of the blue colors on both surfaces, as well as Tsuru's coat flapping in the back. Here again we can see that with a wide-angle lens, the subject gets lost in the frame. But yet again, you get the environment around it. So here I play with foreground elements on both sides to frame the subject and direct the viewer's look toward it. I took a photo of this alley some time ago in a different video, but this time with the 20mm focal length. So even though it's a little too busy with the bicycles on both sides and actually a third one in the background, I think this picture is interesting because you have guidelines, some type of framing, a main subject, and the accent here are the orange yellowish color on the left side and the green color on the right side. And you guessed it, again, the subject is my friend Tsuru taking a picture. With this shot, I demonstrate the strength of the 20mm wide-angle lens. I was standing in the middle of the crossing here, yet I could take the entirety of this street corner. And what tricked me to take the picture is, of course, the yellow awning. Same place, different composition. I used the shutter as guideline on one side, and I like the reflection of the yellow color on it. The bicycle with the umbrella is probably the main subject. The yellow awning at the top is the accent of this picture, and there is also a different source of light in the background. This one, although interesting, is actually a miss because the main subject you can see in the background is blocked by the stick of the umbrella. Yet I like the play with colors and surfaces. On this photograph here, you have different elements that tell a story. The main subject is my friend Tsuru taking a picture. Probably his camera is the point of focus. We can clearly see that he is shooting through the opening of the awning. And in the background there is a clearly defined secondary subject that ties the story together. I really like this shot. Then of course I couldn't help myself but try the same composition. Sorry my friend, I had to steal your idea. I'm not as tall as Tsuru, so I could not perfectly frame the subject, yet shooting through something often makes an interesting image. As you have seen, most of the shops in Tsuruhashi covered market are very small and narrow. But some of them, while being still quite narrow, have some depth to them. This is the case here. The 20mm focal length allows for the entirety of the shop to be in the frame, but the drawback is that the subject gets lost in the background. So I decided to have a casual conversation with the shop owner, with the idea to show that my intentions were good, and after a little chat, I asked him if I could take his portrait. Here it is. Same focal length, 20mm, but much closer to the subject. I think I was probably 1.5 meters away from him. And here too, not only you have a clearly defined subject, but you also have guidelines on each side. And as for the anecdote, the shop is actually 77 years old, meaning that the grandpa is much older. And that day I learned that Tsuruhashi covered market actually started after World War II, around 1945. So it's always interesting to interact with potential subjects because you learn things. On to the next picture. This side of the area was the fish market. Unfortunately, as you can see, it has been abandoned. And on the right side, they even started to tear it down, which is a little sad to see. And here we can see that it is important to document the places, for one day they will be gone. So the idea of this composition is to play with perspective, repetition, and a feeling of desolation. As shown on this picture, the 20mm is also able to produce detail shots. Here I like the old stickers with the Japanese lettering, as well as the feeling of time that went by. Same place, this time with a human subject, my friend Tsuru. As for the elements that compose this shot, you have guidelines, framing, and the opening on the ceiling plays the role of a spotlight. On the next picture, I took the shot from the abandoned side of the market to its lively side. I like the frame that the hole in the shutter creates. Again, I like the spilling of the light on the shutters, as well as the horizontal lines guiding to the subjects. And the accents for me here are the gritty ground you can see at the bottom of the frame, as well as the naked and dirty pipes you can see at the top. Alright, so after that, I took a few more shots that you will see in a minute, but hopefully you have an idea of what the 20 to 35mm wide-angle focal length produces. As you could see in the different shots, the light was pretty dim, so having a fast lens such as the 20 to 35mm f2.8 was obviously a big advantage. So in the end, I had a lot of fun trying this lens, and I want to thank again my friend Tsuru for lending me his gear. And I also had a great time and I learned a lot from him. So shooting together is something that we are already planning to do again. Please consider giving a follow to my friend Tsuru on his Instagram account. Stay tuned for the next video. Like, subscribe, comment to support the channel. Hang a little more for extra shots, and until next time, enjoy the ride and spread the love.